Okay, I see that folks on Zoom have, there's 3 people with their hands up. So I'm going to check on all 3 of you. We'll start with Miss Hamilton Stutz. You have your hand up?
Yes, I had a question on, since this is my first time participating in this, do you take motions at the beginning of the meeting or at the end of the meeting?
Ms. Hamilton Stutz, so at this time on the meeting, only councilors will be able to participate, as it's a formal meeting of the council. And we have 2 orders on the agenda. The first order is a transfer of certified free cash, and then the second is the tax factor setting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Whitfield, you have your hand up?
I was just gonna ask the same question if the tax rate setting committee was able to speak, but I also want to say, I hope folks will really listen to counselors and not try to move the question real fast like they have done.
Counselor, I'm sorry, I can't quite hear you. One moment. I'm going to call the meeting to order shortly. I'm just addressing a technical issue on Zoom. However, in order to do so, I need quiet in the chamber. Thank you. Councilor Whitfield, what were you saying?
I apologize. I just wanted to see if folks from the tax rate setting committee was able to speak, but you answered that with Ms. Ruth Ann Hamilton Stutz. But I also want to ask counselors to not try to just move the question really quickly.
Councilor Whitfield, certainly somebody could speak with leave of the council, as in any normal meeting.
Well, I'm just asking that, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Assessor Greenhall, you also have your hand up. I have not called the meeting to order, so if your question is not of a technical nature, I cannot take it.
I just wanted to still have the opportunity to present sort of the PowerPoint.
Yes, we will proceed to the agenda shortly. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So we are now going to call the meeting to order. It's a special meeting of the Springfield City Council. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Perez.
Present.
Present. Councilor Click Bruce.
Present.
Present. Councilor Curran.
Present.
Present. Councilor Walsh.
Present.
Present. Councilor Brown.
Present.
Present. Councilor Davila.
Present.
Present. Councilor Hurst. Present. Councilor Edwards.
Present.
Present. Councilor Allen.
Present.
Present. Councilor Govan.
Present.
Present. Councilor Fenton.
Present.
Present. Councilor Whitfield.
Present.
Present. Councilor Letterman.
Present. Will the council and guests please rise and join me in a moment of silence? Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. You may be seated. Before we move to our first agenda item, just a couple of brief announcements. The first is, by law, I'm required to state that virtually participating this evening are Councilors Perez, Councilor Click Bruce, Councilor Walsh, Councilor Brown, Councilor Govan, Councilor Fenton, and Councilor Whitfield. Councilors who are present in the chamber are reminded that your microphones are live and broadcasting at all times unless you hover your hand over the mute button. If your green light is on, you are broadcasting. We ask that you rise rise to be recognized and deliver your remarks from the seated position directly into your microphones. For members and guests, this is the recommendation of the Health Commissioner, Helen Calton Harris, that if you are in the chamber, you consider wearing a mask. If you need a mask and do not have one, masks are provided to you at the door to the chamber, and that is recommended for when you are not speaking. At this time, Madam Clerk, please call the first order.
The first order is a transfer for FY22 certified free cash to FY23 in the amount of $6.5 million.
Is there anyone here to speak to this order? CAFO Plant.
President TJ Plant, CAFO for the City of Springfield. This order is part of the tax relief package that the mayor has proposed as part of this tax rate setting process. The total amount for tax relief is 10 million. 3.5 million was committed during the last free cash, and they were asking for an appropriation of 6.5 million for a total of 10 million.
Thank you, Mr. Plant. Are there any questions, comments, or deliberation from the council? Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you. TJ? Is this free cash included in the 67, estimated 67 free cash amount that we heard about earlier?
Yes, this is the free cash that got certified today was 67.8 million, and this 6.5 is recommended as from that pot of money.
It's recommended from that pot of money? I don't know.
So we're asking the council to appropriate to certified free cash of 6.5 million to reduce the tax rate.
Oh, to reduce the tax rate. Oh, and was there any discussion with the mayor to increase that amount to maybe 10 million to reduce the tax rate any further?
There was a brief conversation, but it was not considered.
So it was not considered to give relief, more relief to the taxpayers and the residents and the seniors and those with disabilities and maybe veterans of the city of Springfield, more relief on property taxes, and the increase, just to correct someone that spoke at the public speak out, there has been an increase in property in the average tax bill for the last 8 years and not the last 6. And so I think we could do better. So I'm not going to approve this. I don't know what other councils are going to do, but I can't in good faith, knowing that we got the amount of free cash that we have, 67.8 million in free cash, and we could have done a lot better. We could have also considered using some of the Eversource funds and money to also put a certain amount toward in the future years. We didn't even consider doing that. And then there's better, well, we'll talk about the tax factors later when that comes up, but to me, there's better rates. So I can't, in good faith, do that to the constituents of the city of Springfield. And I think that we should take a little bit more time to see if the mayor would, in fact, actually reconsider giving more tax relief to his constituency that votes him in every year. If not, we'll see what happens 2023.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Govan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have to agree with Councilor Whitfield. The $6.5 million out of $67.8 million that the city has in free cash is a pittance for the residents of the city of Springfield, as was evidenced by the testimony that was given by the residents, by some of the residents, by Mr. Hall. You know, the residents of the city of Springfield, the ones who are basically carrying the city, have allowed the mayor to have the fiscal responsibility that he has had, and he has managed it well, and this is why we're in this position. As was said in the testimony, everything is going up. Water bill, light bill, gas bill, milk, bread, everything is going up except our income. And it is time, I think, because this is a unique opportunity. We may not ever see this again. We know about inflation. We know about a potential recession. And we want to make sure, if possible, which I think is possible with $67.8 million in free cash, for us to give the residents of Springfield, the property owners, the taxpayers, the small businesses, a relief in their taxes, at least this 1 year. And those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Govan. Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I guess I have a question for you, TJ, as the CAFO. The matter before us, the 6.5 million for free cash, that is part of the reduction for the tax factor. Is that correct? I'm sorry, was I muted?
No, that is correct statement.
Okay, so, many of us attended the public portion of this tax factor and heard testimony, and I was particularly moved by the testimony of former assessor Richie Allen, talking about the fact that we have a unique opportunity to give significant relief, which I really like the sounds of, but procedurally, if we want to do that, give that significant relief, do we have to take more free cash in order to do it? In other words, instead of the 6.5, can we put forward another number?
At that point, the mayor needs to sponsor that, and he is going to stick with the full 10 million that we've set aside for appropriation for reducing the taxes.
Okay, well, I think will probably get very interesting then, because I'm getting quite a sense that we all feel that more can be done. But thank you for the information.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Councilor Hurst.
Yes, is it possible, Mr. President, for me to ask a question of the former assessor?
Certainly.
Much appreciated. So, Richie, first of all, I heard what it is that you said during public speak out, and it was extremely poignant, especially considering that you were the assessor in the city of Springfield for how many years?
I served on the Board of Assessors for 34 and a half years. I was chairman for about 29 of those.
So you served on the
Prior to
Board
that,
of
I was a city council aide and a mayor's aide.
Understood. And so what I would like, Mr. President, for the record, is to ask Mr. Allen if he could potentially read the statement that he read in public speak out. I think it's important for the residents of Springfield to know the facts, which is something that Mr. Allen reiterated throughout his message, and I thought his message resonates with a number of the residents here in the city of Springfield, and is probably one of the reasons why I am going to oppose this order this evening. Is that possible, Mr. President?
Without objection.
I have them, Councilor. Thank you. Okay. I'll read it verbatim. I stand before the City Council this evening as I stood before you dozens of times before to discuss the issue of property taxes. I often describe the tax classification vote as the most difficult one in the annual calendar of the City Council. It is hard to balance the goal of funding city services while not burdening homeowners nor hindering business stability and growth. I am speaking this evening not to remind you of the difficulty and complications of this decision, but rather to commend to your attention and to the administration a simple and easy response to the unprecedented facts before you as you consider the question of setting tax rates this year. First, I want to emphasize those facts. Fact number one, the average single-family value has risen by $30,600. I'll just add, going outside the text of my remarks, there's over 33,000 residential properties, 1, 2, and 3 family homes. Over 25,000 of those, maybe over 26,000, are single families. We're known as the city of homes. Back to my remarks. The $30,600, this I believe is the largest increase in the history of annually adjusting Springfield assessed values to comply with full market value. The assessors are obligated to reflect the state of the market as of January 1, 2022. In keeping with regional, statewide, and national trends, the residential market was raging at that date. Fact number two, the local, state, and national economy are facing the highest price inflation in 4 decades. Most measures have reported inflation rates in a range between 6 and 9%. The Federal Reserve has responded by raising interest rates faster and in larger increments than since the 1970s during the presidency of Jimmy Carter. Fact number three, the city's certified free cash, which occurred today, of $67.8 million is the highest in decades, and is perhaps the largest amount of free cash in the city's history. Certainly, I don't remember anything approaching it in my memory. Free cash represents, among other components, unspent appropriations and/or revenue receipts in excess of estimates. I want to congratulate the mayor's financial team for their competence and diligence in managing the budget. In this regard, the April 2022 payment from Eversource of $41+ million was a huge factor in creating the free cash. Eversource had made partial payments of personal property taxes for a decade and had incurred interest of approximately $16 million. This payment issue was prompted by my adopting a different utility valuation method in fiscal year 2012. That change led to the litigation. Springfield has prevailed in the litigation to date, which has been instrumental in creating this windfall of free cash. I would just add that the State Department of Revenue has changed their valuation guidance for certification of property, personal property values for utilities in response to what Springfield, Boston, and a couple other communities have done. The above facts taken together suggest that Springfield homeowners will face substantially higher valuations to be delivered on tax bills 1 month from now, with payment dates falling 2 and 5 months from now. These homeowners are struggling on a weekly and daily basis with increased costs on food, energy, clothing, and shelter. Businesses are confronting similar challenges as they try to retain employees, meet payroll, pay suppliers, and serve their customers. In response to these conditions, I urge the council to deliver a message to the mayor and his financial team that significantly more free cash beyond the proposed $10 million needs to be appropriated to reducing the tax levy. The city has a golden opportunity to provide very significant relief to all taxpayers, residential, commercial, industrial, and personal. The city can also address needs presented by the pension and OPEB unfunded liabilities. As part of the discussion on this issue, you are liable to hear opinions, predictions, and forecasts. All, some, or none of them may prove to be true. I urge you to focus on the facts. You have the tremendous responsibility of acting in accord with the needs and interests of those you represent. The best preparation for that vote is to rely on facts. Facts are indisputable and inescapable.
Thank you, Mr. Allen, and I appreciate your service to the city of Springfield. I, too, agree with my fellow colleagues on the council, Councilor Whitfield and Councilor Govan, as well as former assessor Mr. Allen. I, too, urge the council to deliver a message to the financial team, as well as the mayor and the city of Springfield, that we must do more. This is a golden opportunity to provide significant relief to all taxpayers, residential, commercial, industrial, and personal, and we need to take advantage of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. Councilor Govan, followed by Councilor Allen.
Hi, I just wanted to correct myself. I'm sorry, Mr. Allen. I called you Mr. Hall earlier. Thank you for your testimony, and I, again, agree with the councilors and with you. Thank you.
Govan, Councilor Allen.
Thanks, Mr. President. I just want to present a couple other sets of facts that are part of the job of a city councilor to understand all the facts. One thing that I've stood for in my tenure on the city council is fixing the pension. The pension payment this year out of the city budget was $57 million. Next year it'll be 65. The year after that it'll be 75. The year after that it'll be 85. Somehow it's going to catch up to us at some point. TJ and the financial team have been able to somehow pay that July 1st check, which Pat Burns continually refers to as the first check of the year. I remember it was $30 million, and at least I can go back to then. That's doubled since then. So one other fact that we need to be aware of is the pension. And how do we deal with this? We tried a creative way this year with the pension obligation bonds. It did not turn out to be the time to do those. Maybe they'll turn out again, but there's been no other real new idea for how to deal with that. So one of the other facts that is on my mind is how we can use this windfall of money, which I had something to do with and with getting, and and as did many others, how to deal with that, how to use this money to get ahead. And when I got on the council, we were laying people off in 2009. We haven't had to do that since. So how do we buttress ourselves against that? That's one of the other facts that, as we sit here and try to come up with a package that meets the needs of as many people in the city as we can, if not all the people in the city, we aim for that. That's one of the things that, and I will ask TJ in a second, when is going to be the year that we can't make that payment? That payment ends up over $100 million in the last few years before we supposedly pay it off. So I see there an opportunity for that, because that if the pension payment is just too much for us at any one point, what do we do then? This is our chance to maybe get ahead of that. There's another fact that I would like to put out there that, Tracy, I know you talk about it a lot. TJ's talked about it. Some of the things that we have worried about in the future haven't come to pass, but some of them will come to pass. The pension thing, that's not speculation. That's a real number. That's not if the economy falls or if we have a recession or any of that. That's a real number that we have to come up with every year, regardless of whatever prognosticators say that will happen. One of the things that we do talk about, Tracy, you've mentioned it a lot, is the recession. What are we going to do about the recession? And while everybody has to deal with it, the taxpayers that we're trying to be sensitive to and try to help with, we also have the potential of a recession, which people talk about constantly. And we are currently, one of our buttresses against the recession is our stabilization reserve. That's our savings account, if you will, our money in the bank that is not allocated until the finance team makes a recommendation that they need some of it. Early in my tenure on the council, this is my 13th budget vote. Early in that time, there were several years where we needed stabilization reserve to balance the budget. Every year, we were taking money out of it because we couldn't pay the budget. We couldn't fund the budget the traditional ways. We haven't had to do that in recent years, but there's a potential that we'll have to do it again. There's an ordinance in the city that says between 5 and 15%. Stabilization reserve should be between 5 and 15% of our annual budget. Our annual budget this year was around $750. We have 50, which is, 50 over 750 is somewhere around 6% or 7%. I see this as a potential time to add money to the stabilization reserve to get us into a situation where if we do have to balance the budget with stabilization reserve, that we've got more than we have there now. If we had to take, I haven't done the math, but if we had to take 10 million out to balance the budget this coming year, we only had 40 million, we'd be getting perilously close to not meeting the requirement of that ordinance. So here's another fact that I think we should try to deal with is, buttressing up, adding money to the stabilization reserve so that the famous recession that might come to pass, that we're ready for it, that we can possibly, if we're facing a layoff situation again, and that did happen during my tenure, that we can avoid layoffs because we have money that we can put in the budget from stabilization reserve. So those are two things that I also think are facts that certainly the pension is a fact. Stabilization reserve, what we have in there, what we'd like to get in there, what I like to get in there is maybe that's my desire. I don't know if everybody has that desire. But those are critical things as we sit here as the fiscal oversight people for the city. Fiscal oversight requires that we make decisions that are good for the future of the city. Of course, we want to make decisions that are good for the future of the individuals of the city. This is a tough vote. As my brother mentioned it, this is the biggest vote of the year. But I have to say, sitting in this seat, that's one of the other things. That do we want to be the group that they're talking about at some point? The way we're talking about whoever didn't pay the pension in the past to put us in this position. We've been incredibly responsible with the mayor's and the finance team, et cetera, to do the right things, to keep paying that pension. But somebody was irresponsible at some point in the past. I've never really researched exactly which administration it was, but we got put in the last place in the city, in the state. I believe we're still in last place. We are 35% funded. We've gotten it from 26 to 35. My numbers might be off a touch, but they're approximately right anyway. When we started, the lowest one besides us was 42% funded. We were 26. So we're catching up to the 42, but who knows where they are now. And the payoff date for that is 2034, which is only 11 or 12 years from now. So we'll be looking at a budget in a couple of years in June when we're looking at the budget. It says the pension payment this year is $80 million or 90. And how can we do something now that prepares us for that? So, because the whole city will be at risk if that happens. So those are just two things that are on my mind as we approach this vote and as we consider the overall responsibility to be trying to make the best decisions for the future of the city, for the future of the city of Springfield, the entity, the city of Springfield, all the people in it, as well as what we can do for residents. That's what I'd like to say for now, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Councilor Allen for mentioning the other items that need funding, like the pension, OPEB, and all the other things. And hopefully the administration use some of that free cash to adjust that. And we got so much to go in the reserves account, and our reserves is in a pretty healthy state. TJ, can you just come up and let us know where we currently sit? What's the percentage that we need to have in the reserves accounts and where we are currently?
Yes, Councilor, we are currently at just over 50 million in our stabilization reserve. That reflects roughly a 6% amount of the percentage to budget. And we're hoping to move a fair amount into stabilization reserve to fend off against a recession.
And what's the amount that we're mandated to have in the reserves account?
They say between 5 and 15%, and 5% is the number, the lowest number. 15% is ideal. 10%, would be around 80 million or so. Our goal is to get closer to the 10% mark.
Yeah, that's understandable. And TJ, I know from working in finance, starting in 2010 and then came back in like 2011, I think it was, or end of 2010, that you have been really responsible with the budget. And I don't anticipate what happened before to happen again unless we plummet down the recession pool. But I did want to clarify that there was layoffs when I was working in finance during 2010 and 2014. There was layoffs in the city and furloughs during that time, as I have mentioned in the past also that I was furloughed at one point. So I just wanted to make those clarifications. We talk about pension quite often, but there are also other needs that we need to address in the city of Springfield. And right now we're talking about taxpayers and their property tax going up. TJ, I'm all set. I just wanted to clarify that information. And so I just want us to really consider, we have to set the precedents. We have to make a point that when we can do better, we should. We should. We are voted in by the people, for the people. And right now, with this minimum, it's not a minimal amount, it's not a small amount, but compared to what we have, compared to what we can do, it's kind of small. And I want the mayor to please consider doing better. Like, let's do better for the residents of the city of Springfield. Let's do the best we can for the residents of the city of Springfield while we can, because we don't know, we can't predict what's going to happen in the future. And like former assessor Richie Allen said, this is the time he has never seen in all the years that he worked for the city. And so I just want to urge councilors to really consider doing the right thing. And then I also want to caution counselors, because if we end up not passing this, this transfer, then the property tax bills, the average amount will probably be somewhere around 260 something. But Patrick, I want you to confirm that if we don't pass the 6.5 million, where it would put based on the mayor's recommendation, where it would put the average increase of the tax bill if we do not pass this transfer?
Sure. So if the budget transfer does not occur, we would still have the $3.5 million that was used previously committed. So if we're looking at kind of the same shift, because here now the tax rates and factors all change, but if we're looking at the same shift, it would be a $360 increase to the average single family.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to caution counselors that if we don't, I don't want to be strong-armed, but I still want to do what's right for the residents of the city of Springfield. So if we don't pass this and we do pass the tax factor in the next item, the increase will be on average 300 and, what'd you say, $6 or 60?
It'd be 360, but that's sticking at the same shift that we currently have for fiscal 22.
Right, at the same shift, so $360, and that's on average. And as we talked about at the subcommittee meeting, that means that over 50% of the property tax owners or the homeowners bill will be even more than that. It will be even, well, 50% or less will be more than that. $360. So I just want to caution counselors that, just so we have all the facts, because we do have new counselors on the council, that, you know, we got to make an informed decision both ways. And I wanted to give you guys both scenarios. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Is there any further deliberation? Councilor Hurst?
Just a quick question for TJ. TJ, if this transfer is voted down, can the mayor or the administration at any point in time come back before us and give us a transfer of potentially a larger amount? I mean, is that a possibility? And then we still use that, you know, we still use it for the same purpose? Or is this a one and done?
That is an excellent question. I defer to the clerk if she has an answer on if it's voted down tonight and we have a meeting tomorrow, can the mayor bring it back for tomorrow, or do we need to repost for 48 hours to do another meeting?
We would have to repost.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Councilor?
And what are the implications of reposting? I mean, he can transfer this money at any point in time to have the same effect. Is that not accurate?
So when we set the tax rate, we need to make sure that we have the appropriation of 10 million to put on the Schedule A.
I see.
And just there's a December 6th deadline that's kind of looming for us, that in order to get the bills teed up and ready to go out for January 1st, we need to back into that with the IT department and the assessor and collectors department. So,
thank you.
Does that conclude your remarks, Councilor Hurst?
Yes.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. Councilor Allen?
Thank you, Mr. President. TJ, don't go too far. I just want to understand and Pat, I'm going to ask you on the pension annual payments in a minute, how they're looking for the next 3-4 years. TJ, so if we don't pass the 6.5 million, is the 3.5 is there?
3.5 is there, already appropriated through last year's free cash.
So if we don't pass the 6.5 million and we pass a tax, can we pass a tax rate tonight with just the 3.5 million?
Yes, it would be a rate sheet I believe Patrick has available if that is the case.
So if we don't pass the 6.5 million, if we don't transfer it, we could still vote a tax rate tonight, only it would be less favorable because it'd only be 3.5 million.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay, and let me, if I could ask Pat, thank you, TJ. I'm trying to mull over that. Pat, could you give us the lowdown on the pension, please? The percentage funding, where we are, and what the annual payments are and how much they're going up. I believe they go up 9% a year.
Correct. We just had a valuation done. It was done as of 1/1/2022. And as you had mentioned, we're 35.6% funded. Up until a few years ago, we were 26% funded, so it shows we're making progress. The board recently adopted a new funding schedule, and that has increases of 9.2%, which was similar to the last schedule. It was exactly 9.2% in the 1/1/2020 valuation. So as you know, as you pointed out, that translates into just for next year, approximately a $6 million increase just on the city side. There's also a school component to that. And as you increase 9.2 on a higher principal, that amount's going to go up. So, we've had this discussion several times about our liability, and I commend the council for the funding. It's a difficult situation sitting on the retirement board, being the lowest funded in the state, and the progress we've made is commendable.
We are still lowest funded in the state.
Yes.
And we just do 9%. It was 57. The city part was 57 this year. I'm pretty sure. 9%, 65 roughly, 64 or something. 9% again, 72. 9% again, 80. That's how it works.
Correct.
Do you know when it gets to 100 million?
I believe it is 2027 on the city side. Now, the funding schedule is set to be fully funded in 2033. By law, we can go out to 2040, but we have been cautioned against that by PARAC, which is the oversight that allows us some way to react if there's a downturn with the stock market, which we've unfortunately seen this year. We had a great year in 2021, but 2022, as we've all seen, hasn't been as favorable.
Has it been, we have negative returns?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. We're going to Councilor Davila, followed by Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you to everybody for being here and for all the speakers. And of course, to TJ and his team for doing this work. Mr. President, this is, if not the most important vote that we take throughout the year, is definitely one of the most important votes that we do take. I have done my homework, as I always do. I have looked at all the numbers. I have had the conversations. And there has been extremely good back and forth and good thoughts, and honestly, different school of thoughts here in different schools. But let me tell you about what's on my mind that is very real, as it relates directly or indirectly to the tax rate here in front of us. One, that COVID-19 has decimated the economy. That's not only here in Springfield, nationally and worldwide. That the war in Ukraine has also put a lot of strains in the economy. That the average single house, as it was stated today by former city Allen, that is increase is $30,600 throughout the city. I think of what Ms. Morris was saying, that she has difficulty paying her taxes, and I'm sure there's a lot of residents throughout the city that also face similar dilemmas. But let me get my pen for a second, sir, because I like to do basic math. And TJ, this question is for you, sir. I'm sure you have your pen too. You can do math with me. So we were certified today $67.8 million, correct?
Correct.
Very well. And so let's say that, hold on, let me make sure. So 67.8 million. And 7 of that is going to go to OPEC. That's mandatory, roughly, give or take. Right?
Yeah, 6.7 million, 10% needs to go to OPEB.
Well, so we say roughly $7 million. All right. minus $10 million the mayor is suggesting for tax relief, correct?
6.5 out of this pot of money, 3.5 is
Six and
already
a half,
appropriate.
right, 6.5. Oh, so actually, see, okay. So that's going to leave us with how much in the free cash?
Oh, I wasn't keeping track. I thought you were.
Well, let's do
I
it
was just
together.
answering questions.
Well, let's do it together. You're the financial whiz. How much is this going to leave us? Just out of curiosity. Or your team behind you. How much?
Yeah, 50, roughly 55 after that.
Oh, 50, actually, I had a smaller number, so 55. I have 51, so $55 million. Thank you, TJ. $55 million. So, Mr. President, thank you, TJ. Mr. President, let me give you a historical. If I'm mistaken, please jump out and correct me, anybody from the financial team. Let me give you a historical look at the free cash history in the city of Springfield. Please bear with me for 30 seconds. According to the state, in 2013, we had 7.4 million. 2014, we have 351,000. 2015, 14.6 million. 2016, 4.8 million. 2015, 14.6 million. 2016, 4.8 million. 2017, 4.9 million. 2018, 6.4 million. 2019, 7.4 million. 2020, 4 million. 2021, 7.3. 2022, 27.6 million. 2023, $67.8 million. Mr. President, if we were able to weather all the chaos, all the crises that we have faced, this city has faced since 2013, I have all the confidence in the world, Mr. President, that we can weather whatever comes in the future. Now, I will admit to you, nobody has a crystal ball. If you do, please let me know. I know I don't. But people need help now. Ms. Morris Perry needs help now. And let us be realistic. This city is a poor city. We have to help people. Otherwise, who knows what real crisis we are going to have. Now, me personally, I don't know how the rest of my colleagues feel. I do join the call to adding more than $10 million to direct tax relief. That will be direct impact. But also, if we look at, to me, will be acceptable, contributing more towards the pension, which in turn will lower the budget and will reduce the amount of money we're going to have to raise. So there's room for us to work here. And I do respect people, and there's a school of thought. If you want to take the money and stuff it on the pillow, that I understand. I am not the mayor, but I understand that. If that's your thought, if that's your school of thought, fine. But I'm sitting here, and I do believe that money has to flow. I do know that I have constituents that struggle. And as I have said before publicly, Mr. President, I don't see this as an expense. I see this as an investment and as a boost of the local economy. We can do better. Yes, we can do better. We should do better. And I know you guys know that we can do better. The question is the political will there. It's the leadership there to do so. That is the big question in front of us. Not all this red hearing about harder, what's going to happen tomorrow. Do we have the will? To me, that's the question. Now, a fair point was brought up before. What happens if we continue this? And it was implied that we have to pass the tax factor and then sticking people with a higher bill. That was the implication of what was said before. Well, I submit to you, my dear friends, my beloved colleagues in the council, that if we do choose within the wisdom of this body to continue this item, well, they will continue item number 2 and set the tax factor later. They themselves say that we have until December 6th. And every year it seems to me that the deadline changes for whatever reason. It's a moving target to me. I've been here 3 years and I never get a straight answer. What's the deadline? It's always the different December 6th, December 9th. If we don't do this, I think we have time. I think we have time to move this. And so with that being said, sir, I think we are in an unprecedented situation to help the people here in the city of Springfield. $67 million, $67 million, that's a lot of money. And I'm just not buying it. I'm just not buying it. So with that being said, sir, I do make a motion to continue item number 1. And then we will address item number 2 at the proper time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Davila has made a motion to continue item 1, seconded by Councilor Whitfield. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councilor Walsh, your hand is up. Is your question on the motion?
No, my question wasn't on the motion, but it was sort of about what the motion's about, because I wondered if we postponed a vote on this, would we also have to re-advertise? If we just postpone it, or if we take no action?
If we were to continue or postpone, we do have another meeting scheduled tomorrow evening. I will share with councilors that there is a conflict with the school committee tomorrow evening, which is not an issue for us in terms of our meeting, but it is an issue for Focus Springfield. However, I've spoken with Focus Springfield, and there is a pathway for us to meet tomorrow night. However, it would require us to recess until the school committee was out. However, related to the motion, that meeting is noticed with the same notice that we have tonight. And so, as was said earlier, if a change was going to occur, which is, I won't speak to the intent of the motion, but if a change was going to occur, we would need to re-advertise in order to take up any appropriation in that regard.
And what time is the meeting scheduled for tomorrow night?
7:00 p.m.
And we wouldn't be able to meet earlier because we wouldn't be able to give notice, correct?
Correct, Councilor Walsh.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, point of clarification.
Councilor Davila, on your motion.
So would you restate your statement, sir? I quite didn't follow you. If the motion is to continue this item, it will have to be reposted.
If the motion is to continue this item, it would not have to be reposted if the intent was to meet tomorrow during the meeting. But it would have to be reposted if there was any change. So if there was going to be a response that resulted in an increased or decreased appropriation, you would have to renotice. So if a vote is going to be taken that is not what is noticed tonight and already noticed for tomorrow, we will need to renotice.
Interesting. My motion stands. I do believe, so Mr. President, then some guidance, then how should the motion be phrased with the intent of possibly increasing the amount? Unless I'm missing something here. I want to make sure that I understood your explanation. You're saying that if the intent is to increase the amount, it will have to be reposted.
Correct. I mean, if the mayor is going to bring a different appropriation to the city council, we will have to repost the meeting with that appropriation.
Okay. I don't like negotiating in public, so for now, let's just let the motion stand.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Let the motion stand to continue.
I didn't understand your previous statement.
I don't like negotiating in public, but let's.
I understand you don't.
Let's the motion stand.
So the motion is currently to continue. The motion was seconded by Councilor Walsh. Is there discussion on the motion? Councilor Curran, followed by Councilor Allen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I would be opposed to this motion. There's a lot that goes into these meetings. We have members of the general public. We have members of the Chamber of Commerce. We have the clerk's office. There's open meeting law issues as well. We have members of the Finance Committee and department heads, and they all came here today, and I think gave a tremendous presentation on their work. Congratulations to TJ, Lindsay Hackett, Pat Burns, on this accomplishment of creating this $67 million in free cash. Congratulations to City Council for pursuing the Eversource deal, to my colleague Tim Allen as well as Mike Fenton. But we're here today to do a job, and the job before us is to vote on what the mayor has put before us, and that's a $6.5 million transfer. Time and time again, a lot of times we come to these council meetings and we keep putting a continuance on them, but sometimes you have to get to work on the job before us. And tonight, what is before us is the 6.5. Now, there's nothing precluding, and if I'm incorrect, I don't think I'm incorrect. The mayor can come back after this and add another $3.5 million in tax relief. So there's no need to continue. So I would urge my colleagues to vote on what we have here today. If you want to lobby the mayor, and that's a very understandable position, and as we heard from our constituents who want and are asking for consideration of more tax relief, we can tomorrow meet with the mayor and ask for another 6.5 in the transfer. But there's no reason to put off the vote tonight. This is the job before the council. I don't think it's that difficult of a vote, but this is what we are here to do, to take votes. We're not here to continue matters. So I would ask my colleague to reconsider his motion, to withdraw it, or I'd ask my colleagues to vote it down. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Curran. Councilor Allen?
Thank you, Mr. President. My main thing is, whatever we end up with, if Councilor Davila withdraws his motion or doesn't, we need to understand the steps of each of these things. That's a complication if we vote to pass it. I think we're on a track where we vote. We have a timing, I think, between now and tomorrow night. If it went to tomorrow night, stuff that's already noticed, and it helps Patrick meet the requirements and TJ, et cetera, of communicating and all that stuff to the powers that be. What needs to be done. I think Patrick said we had it outside like Tuesday or something for some maybe Patrick, maybe you could, I guess I would ask Patrick if he could lay out the steps with a passage. If we pass this, I respectfully agree with Councilor Curran. I would rather continue this tonight and do what we can tonight, because we're just going to somehow put ourselves in a pickle. So Patrick, I'm wondering if we could ask, Mr. President, if we could ask Patrick to lay out the steps day by day, given what we have now and how it might change in order for them to meet their requirements.
Assessor Greenhall, Chairman Greenhall.
Yes, so we essentially have a internal deadline of December 6th to have our tax rates certified by the Department of Revenue. That will allow us in our IT department enough time to generate a billing file. And it will take a day or two once the tax factor has been voted on by the City Council for the Department of Revenue to review that and give their approval.
If we were to delay this till tomorrow night or whatever, what risk is there? Or maybe that's more of a question for for President Letterman about that notice stuff you were talking about. I'm afraid that if we start doing this and we think we're being helpful to the process, we could end up being hurtful to the process and put ourselves in a pickle where we're doing this at Monday night at midnight or something. So I'm concerned that we have a process in place, and just the way you described before, Mr. President, you know, if it's done a certain way, we have to renotice it. If it's done another way, we don't have to renotice it. We need to understand that pretty clearly before we take this vote. So that's my request, that we lay that out clearly, because you seem to have, I'm afraid we'll vote on something not realizing the implications of it.
Are you asking for me to answer that question, Councilor Allen?
Well, between what you said and what Mr. Greenhall just said, and with, you know, any added info from the finance team.
Sure. Thank you, Councilor Allen, and I know our Attorney Ken Shea, is also present virtually and can advise. But essentially, Councilor Davila's motion is to continue. Councilor Davila did not state to continue to when. Traditionally, when we make a motion to continue in this body and do not specify a date, it is usually to our next meeting. So I am interpreting the motion as a motion to continue to our next meeting. Our next meeting is currently scheduled and posted for tomorrow at 7 o'clock. And so if this motion was to pass tonight, the technical impact of it is that this would no longer be taken up this evening. We would proceed to the residential tax factor vote. And then tomorrow evening, we would convene and we would take up the same exact motion. That does not require a renotice. If there were a change in the appropriation or the transfer being sought by the administration, then we would need to renotice. And that would be either need to be noticed for our next regular meeting on Monday, which we would have to do by the morning. So I don't know that we'd come to a conclusion by morning. So more likely then it would be a special meeting, which requires 72-hour notice. And that would get us into next week.
Thank you. Just a further question from me. So if Councilor Davila continues with his motion and it passes, and we continue to tomorrow, would we continue to the second item on tonight's agenda?
Under the current motion, yes, we would continue to item 2 and we would take up item 2. In the same way we would take up a second item on any agenda.
And so if that were the case and we had just passed item 1, we hadn't passed it, I mean, it was continued. So item 2, if we voted on that, would not have that 6.5 million, and we'd be voting on a tax factor with only 3.5 million.
That would be a question for the finance team.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like the finance team to answer that question?
Well, somehow we got to get to a resolution of clarity on the motion, clarity on the implications of the motion, so we know what we're voting on. We don't have a lot of time, and we're kind of in a crunch anyway, time-wise. So, Mr. TJ came up and said that the mayor is not, I think what he said before, we could ask him again, but the mayor is not inclined to change the tax, what do we call it, tax reduction part of the budget, that the 10 million is going to stay the 10 million. If that's the case, and then the usefulness of Councilor Davila's motion is questionable. That's all I'm saying. You're welcome to make the motion, but if the mayor's not moving, we didn't really buy anything by continuing.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. We'll go to Councilor Walsh, followed by Councilor Whitfield. And then we will go to Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just thought that we needed an answer to the question that I believe Councilor Allen just raised about if the motion to postpone succeeds, then we go to the next item on the agenda. The tax factor will be different without having us voted on the free cash.
CAFO
The
plan.
tax factor vote on won't contain the relief.
Correct. The tax rate sheet that's before you now has it with the full 10 million in. If the 6.5 does not pass, it's only going to have 3.5 million in tax relief in it. And that, I don't know if we have the rate sheets for that ready to go on the off chance that that happens. But I believe it was Councilor Allen that said that the increase would be, or even Councilor Whitfield, that if we don't have the 6.5, the increase will be, or even Patrick, much larger than we have built into the tax factor rate sheet today, right now, the one that's before you.
Yeah. So this is really puts everybody in a very difficult position because we all recognize the need to take advantage of this significant increase, but at the same time, if we vote on the factor without the 10 million, we're actually doing more of an increase than has been proposed. Would that be accurate?
That is accurate, and I don't know if it helps the body. I don't have
No, it just muddles everything because on one hand you want to do something and then you're prohibited by, as Richie Allen said, facts. So yeah, it's a conundrum.
So I don't know if it helps.
Councilor Walsh, thank you, Mr. Plemons. Councilor Walsh, did you have anything further?
No.
Thank you.
I hope that helps somebody.
Councilor Whitfield.
I know it confused me.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to just talk about facts. I'm going to stay with Richie Allen's theme. First, we can continue items that we want to continue. Folks who are here wanted to be here to speak out. No one, while I appreciate everyone who showed up in the council chambers, while I appreciate everyone who's on the call, who's taking their time to be here, it wasn't forced, and folks wanted to be here. Secondly, we can continue both items. We don't have to continue one and then vote on the other. It's not mandatory that we vote on the tax factor tonight. We can give the mayor an opportunity to change his mind. Maybe he'll watch it and consider changing his mind tomorrow. Maybe he'll have a change of heart, get into the spirit of the holiday and want to do more for the residents of the city of Springfield and reduce the tax increase down to zero. Maybe he wants to do that for the business side as well. I'm not really sure what could happen, but we do not have to vote on one. We can continue both items. And that's all right. That's our right to do it. That is the law, it's legal. Councilor Letterman chastised me earlier when I said, please don't move the question. Like, that's also our right to do so as a body chamber. And so while I appreciate everybody's time and effort, I think it's important that we give the mayor and the administration one more day or an additional opportunity to tell the taxpayers what they'll do to assist them or not. We're at least willing to do that. We don't have to rush this vote based on how people feel. If you don't want to come to the next meeting, be absent. I don't know what to say there, but that's not something that is mandatory to do. We can actually continue both items. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Just to clarify for the record, certainly there was no chastisement on my part. However, as the parliamentarian for the body and the president, I do have an obligation to ensure that we stay in compliance with all open meeting laws. And had I made clear that I had not called the meeting to order yet, I wanted to ensure that anybody who was speaking with a technical question was able to have that handled, and I made the same thing clear to Assessor Greenhall. So I am always only looking to protect the body and all councilors and ensure that we stay on cue. At this time, I'm going to go to Councilor Davila, followed by Councilor Curran.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I do have to say that I find this a lively and wonderful debate. Mr. President, is my volume okay? I find it a little low. Is that...
I can hear you.
Okay. Mr. President, I do find this debate and this back and forth quite exuberating. There's a couple of things I do want to say. There's some stuff being said that have my colleagues have observations. But let me start off by saying, and I do have some questions for Patrick in a second. Mr. President, I realize there's 13 of us. And we're all different. And we all think that each way is the right way. Oh, don't forget the mayor, that makes 14. And each one of us has a different thought as to what our job is. You may believe what it is you want to believe, what your job as a councilor is. But I will tell you what I think my job is. My job is to advocate for the residents of the city of Springfield and for the people of Forest Park, for which I have more than privileged and blessed to serve. It is my duty to advocate for them. That's how I see it. It's not my job to just vote whatever the mayor sends me to vote. No. Mr. President, I remind this humble, wise body that we have a strong mayoral form. We don't have an omnipotent mayoral form. So I'm not just going to vote for whatever mayor sends me. At least in my book, it's not going to happen. I'll be whatever who's steaming at home already or upset with me. But I will sleep good tonight, Mr. President, because I came here and I have done what I think is the right thing to do for the people of Springfield, and that is that I think that we can do better. We have $67.8 million in the account. They have already told us that we're going to have 50 by the time everything else is paid off or transferred. And we have never had this much money, this bonanza. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to give the store away, that would be fiscally responsible, of course. I'm not going to bore you with the numbers, but again, the best time that we had money in looking here is 2022 at $27 million. So even if we add more money, we still have enough money in the free cash to weather any potential storms that may or may not come. Because again, I ask, if any of you has a crystal ball, please let me know. I want to be your best friend. So just to be crystal clear, my job is just not to vote to whatever it is the mayor sends me. My job is to advocate for the people of Springfield and for the residents of Forest Park, which I'm privileged and honored to serve. Mr. President, I have a question for Patrick, if I may, sir.
Your question is for whom, Council Dabney?
Patrick, Mr. President.
Chairman Greenhall?
Yes, please.
He's present. He can hear you.
Patrick, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Patrick, question, sir. A lot has been, and again, this is every year is the same thing. If we don't pass it by this day, by this day, by this day, then this is a moving target, as I said before. So tell me, what will happen if we miss the so-called deadline?
Well, the internal deadline of December 6th is
So when you say internal,
basically-
I'm sorry, Patrick. You say internal. What does that mean?
So we have to generate the third quarter bills and get them out in a timely manner. If we fail to get them out timely, that could trigger a preliminary third quarter bill and then the actual bill on the fourth quarter. One of the issues that we have this year is we have a new record-keeping system in Munis that was upgraded. And the IT department, they know they're going to run into some snafus kind of along the way when they're generating these bills. So that is the December 6th deadline.
So Patrick, again, you mentioned internal. Does that mean that that's the deadline the city has set, or is that DOR deadline?
That's a deadline of the city.
So it's the city's deadline. I want to make sure that I heard you correctly. It's the city's deadline.
That is correct.
So
We are
what's
the ones who generate
what's the
third quarter
DOR's
bill.
what's the DOR's deadline, sir?
Well, our deadline is we have to issue bills in accordance with general law, which requires us to get them out at the end of December.
Right.
And they will be due February 1st.
Well, no, I understand that, Patrick. I'm saying, does DOR has a deadline, sir?
They do not have a deadline, no. The general law requires us to issue bills timely. So that we're backing up from that date of how long it requires the internal departments to generate the tax bill.
Right. Okay, all right. So I just learned something new. I didn't realize that it was an internal deadline, that it's a city deadline. So this deadline is imposed by the city. Now, so you said let's get a preliminary bill. So say my homeowner, we don't pass it on time. I'm going to get a preliminary bill, which is going to say what? Roughly how much I'm going to be paying in that? And if that's the case, when will that money be due?
You know, I actually don't really know the process for a preliminary bill, and I'm hoping we don't have to sort of research that. But in short, what I think I know of it is it would basically carry on your first and second quarter bill. So the entire increase that somebody would see in their fiscal 23 tax bill would be all in one quarter bill.
I understand. Mr. President, maybe Pat Burns perhaps could answer my question if that would be the right guy. Pat, is that something you could answer?
Mr. Burns?
If that was the case, as the chair of the assessors pointed out, the entire increase would go on the fourth quarter bill. So if it was a $300 increase, you would sustain that increase in one quarter, and that could be a hardship to the taxpayers.
Right, Pat. But so let me get this straight, Pat. So if I get a preliminary bill, it's going to say that I might be paying X amount and will be due in May, but also the other bill will be due in May, the second quarter. So it will be two bills due pretty much at once, correct?
Correct.
Right. So definitely, I agree with you. That could potentially be a hardship, or depending on how you look at it, it could be a relief, because I don't know about you guys, but if I have $100 in my pocket, I want to hold on to it as much as I can. Right? So, I mean, ideally, we're going to pass this on time, and the bills are going to go out on time, and everything's going to be hunky-dory, but I do see, thank you, Pat, you're very kind, by the way, I'm just, thank you, Mr. President, that Although I understand what they're saying, we could potentially be also helping people. So again, like I said at the beginning of my conversation, this is two different school of thoughts, two different schools. I think money needs to flow. I think we need to help the people more. We can do better. I go back. We have $67.8 million. We have never been in this position. And if we have weather in the past, storms, I have all the confidence in the world in the financial team, which is top notch, to give us the right tools and the right direction to pass anything that may be coming. So with that being said, I think I urge my colleagues to make a statement that we really want to, that we're aware that the people of Springfield are strapped, that it's difficult, and we got their back. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. The motion on the floor is to continue. Councilor Curran on the motion.
Mr. President, could I entertain a question to Councilor, or actually CAFO TJ Plant?
Certainly, CAFO Plant.
TJ, if we vote on this motion, if we vote on the measure before the council tonight, can we come back next year and ask for further tax relief? Is that possible?
Yes, to set the tax rate next fiscal year, or for setting the next year's tax rate. I do not have authority to change the number tonight, and I can have the conversation for the 6.5 to change into something else. It's been pretty clear that the 10 million was the number the mayor and the finance team were comfortable with. However, I do have the ability to talk about what we could set aside of the free cash to help reduce next year's tax rate as well.
So can you give us the mechanics of that? If we vote on this tonight and approve it tonight, you can meet with the finance committee here in the council, and we could set further parameters, and then you go through the numbers. If the economy is improving, you could give us further relief.
Further relief for next year's bill. So what the extra money that we could potentially put in would be to mitigate any balloon kind of spike in the tax bill next year, because if we don't have anything, the tax bill is going to go up naturally just because we don't have the 10 million to reset or to bring down the taxes. So if we're saving $500 next year out of the gate without any value changes, it's going to be $500 out of the gate, and then we're going to go up from there. And so I would like to, if we're going to do any further relief for next year, I'd like to do it strategically, have the Board of Assessors, the Finance Committee, me, whoever, sit down and have the conversations of what that would look like.
And to be clear, if factors on the ground improve and are going in the right direction, you personally as the CAFO, you're not opposed to further relief next year, are you?
I'm not opposed to it as long as the number is something that we can maintain as we head into a recession that keeps it fair and balanced for everyone. I'm not opposed to it.
Understood. I think based on the CAFO's response, I think it further solidifies my position of that we really should consider voting on the measure before the council tonight. If we continue and we meet again tomorrow, we're simply meeting again on these numbers. EJ just said that we can come back next year and we can ask for further tax relief. And obviously, I think that's a concern for many of us, as well as the residents that we represent. And I think it gives us an opportunity to meet with the Finance Committee and meet with the mayor and lobby for further relief. With that said, with this measure before us, we have the opportunity to provide some relief now. And I think based on that, I think we should go forward with the vote and vote against any continuance. Because if we do continue and if we meet again tomorrow night with the numbers before us, and we don't come to a resolution, it's a possibility that procedurally, we are up against the clock. So it would be my position to take a vote on the matter that we have before the council tonight. And so again, I would ask you to vote against the motion on the floor.
Thank you, Councilor Curran. The motion on the floor is to continue. Councilor Whitfield on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to reiterate that we are giving the finance team and the mayor one more opportunity to consider doing what's right by the residents of the city of Springfield this year. Wait until next year and providing tax relief is not helping folks that's going through inflation right now. It's not helping folks who gas prices, oil prices, cost of food, cost of living that's going up right now when folks are homeless, can't even get apartments because that has inflated so much. Like, they can't even move in somewhere because you have to have 3 times the monthly rent and income. And they can't afford that because the inflation of what happened with rent has gone up. And so there's so many factors that folks need tax relief this year. They could have considered this before. They strategically planned this year. They strategically planned last year. They strategically plan every year. So what's going to be different? I'm not saying that the finance team didn't work hard, and I'm glad that they offered some relief. I mean, I asked for 5 million and 5 million last year, and we probably would have, if they accepted it last year, we would have been at the rate that we needed for this year. However, they didn't. They didn't go back to the table last year. They're not going back to the table this year, but we're giving one last ditch effort for the mayor of the city of Springfield to do the right thing by the residents. One last. And if he doesn't, based on what we're asking, then the residents of the city of Springfield know. That's it. And we're not going to rush this. Like Councilor Davila said, I agree. We're not going to rush this because anyone feels like we should, unless we feel it in our heart as well. Everybody's going to vote their heart. Like Councilor Edwards always say, people already know what they're going to vote. They're going to vote their heart. But I have one question for Peter Signator that's also on the Zoom. And I wonder if Peter can speak, Mr. President.
Without objection. Sure.
Peter?
Yes, ma'am.
My question to you is when is the schedule for the third quarter tax bills to be generated and mailed out?
Well, Patrick is quoting this billing schedule that we use every year, and we kind of back into this date because, you know, we use our deputy collector as our printer, and they are the largest bill printer in the state. So we are one of many, many customers that they use, and they have to schedule their bill print production and mailing production. And then before that, I have to review the bills, make sure they're correct and sign off on them. And before that, then IT has to actually generate a billing file. And as Patrick has already told you, we have a new version of our software this year, and we have no idea how that's going to go. Things are running much slower than the previous version. So we could run into snags with that. We are in New England, you know, we could have a snowstorm, and Kelly and Ryan may not be able to get the bills to the post office on time. We have to anticipate all of these potential problems along the way. So that's how we back from December 31st up to December 6th to allow everybody to do their part and get it done on time.
What's the latest, then I should say, that you will feel comfortable with the bills going out? The latest you will feel comfortable with the bills going out?
Well, the bills have to be in the mail by December 31st.
December 31st, so
Yes.
that's a lot of time. It's not even December yet until tomorrow.
Well, but there's all of those
what you're
steps.
saying. I understand your back.
You know, project management, Tracy, we gotta get all those steps in.
I understand.
You know.
And I work through this process, Peter,
Yeah.
with you. So
Mhm.
I just wanted you to explain the third quarter bills, because I did go online yesterday and I was up to 4 a.m. researching at the Commonwealth about exemptions. There's so many more exemptions that could be offered to the residents of the city of Springfield. Those is just over the income guideline limits. And it's just so much that we could do in the city of Springfield. So strategically, we should look into those things as well. Like strategically, if we really want to be strategic, we should forecast for the future, because we got economists out here that we can utilize to forecast what they're predicting in the future. We can look up some of the future trends, and we can get some information where we could strategize out for the next 3 to 5 years. I think we did that a little bit the year before. We strategized over 2 years or something like that, but we could do better. There's many options that was not considered doing this project. And one thing, if I am finance chair for next year, if I'm granted that, I will have these meetings earlier, October, some educational meetings, because according to the city council rules, we're supposed to start with the education piece for the community in October. And I'm sorry that I missed that. That's my fault, and I own my mistakes. So if that's the case, I will commit to doing that. And if it's not me, I hope the next person will commit to doing that. However, we have time. We have time, and we do not have to rush. So right now, I'm going to ask that we move the question to continue the matter, because I think we're just beating a dead horse. And I want to move the question.
Councilor Whitfield has made a motion. Motion to move the question has been seconded by Councilor Edwards. 2/3 majority vote is required to move the question. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the motion to move the question.
On the motion to move the question, Councilor Perez.
And could you give me a more clarification with moving the question?
I apologize, Councilor Perez. So the vote that we will now take, members, is on the motion to move the question that was made by Councilor Whitfield. This is not a vote on Councilor Davila's motion. This is a vote on ending debate on Councilor Davila's motion and moving forward to a vote on Councilor Davila's motion. And so a yes vote on the motion to move the question means that you want to stop talking about the debating and discussing the motion, and you want to then have a vote on the motion. A no vote on motion to move the question means that we will continue debating the motion and vote at some appropriate time. Does everybody clear on that?
Yes.
So based on the information, yes.
Yes. Councilor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Kern?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Davila?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Hurst?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Govan?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman?
Yes, the votes are sufficient and the motion to move the question passes. We will now move to a roll call vote on Councilor Davila's motion to continue. A yes vote on the motion to continue will continue this item, item 1, the transfer of $6.5 million, to our next meeting tomorrow. A no vote will return us to debate on whether or not to approve item 1, $6.5 million. Are there any questions on the yeas and nays? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on Councilor Davila's motion to continue item 1.
On the motion to continue the transfer, Councilor Perez?
No.
No. Councilor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Kern?
No.
No. Councilor Walsh?
No.
No. Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Davila?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Hurst?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards?
No.
No. Councilor Allen?
No.
No. Councilor Govan?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton?
No.
No. Councilor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman?
No. Madam Clerk, please specify the yeas and nays.
There are 6 no votes and 7 no votes, 6 yes votes.
The motion to continue fails. We return to regular debate on item 1, which is the free cash transfer of $6.5 million. Are there any further questions, comments, or deliberation? Councilor Fenton?
Motion to move the question.
Councilor Fenton has made a motion to move the question. It's been seconded by Councilor Edwards. This is a motion to move the question. So again, at this time, we'll be voting on whether or not to end debate on question 1 or on item 1, and then proceed to a vote on item 1. So a yes vote means there will be no more debate on item 1. A no vote will allow us to continue debating question 1 prior to a vote. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On moving the question, Councilor Perez?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Kern?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Davila?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Hurst?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Govan?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman?
No, the votes are sufficient and the item is moved. Madam Clerk, at this time, please call the roll on approval of item 1, which is the transfer of $6.5 million of certified free cash to the FY23 estimated revenues. A yes vote will allow the transfer to take place. A no vote will prevent the transfer from taking place.
On approving the transfer, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
No.
No, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
No. Sorry.
No, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient and the transfer is authorized. This transfer requires the invocation of Rule 19 in order to pass in one step. Is there such a motion?
Motion made.
Motion was made by Counselor Edwards to suspend Rule 19, seconded by Counselor Allen. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, without objection, please call the roll on the motion to suspend Rule 19.
On suspension of Rule 19, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
No.
No, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, suspension of Rule 19 must be unanimous, and given Counselor Govan's no vote, the motion to suspend Rule 19 fails. That means that this will need to be voted on one more time at a future meeting of the City Council. At this time, Madam Clerk, please call item 2.
Item 2 is for the tax factor for fiscal year 23.
Chairman Greenholm.
I'd like to make a motion to immediately reconsider.
I'll second the motion.
Councilor Hurst has made a motion to immediately reconsider the vote to suspend Rule 19. Councilor Edwards has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councilor Edwards?
Mr. President, can you give an explanation for the for why we should consider, I mean, in a sense that to pass the second item, we need to pass the first one. And I just want to make sure that the no vote was clear on why it was a 12-1 vote.
So to answer your question, Councilor Edwards, I can once again clarify the impact of Rule 19.
Yes.
Rule 19 is a City Council rule,
Yes.
and that rule states that certain matters of financial importance, including transfers, require 2 readings. Traditionally, this body has suspended Rule 19 on most matters. That's been a parliamentary tradition in this body since I've been a member and long before. However, suspension of Rule 19, just like suspension of any rule, requires that that suspension be unanimous. And so when we held our roll call vote, the fact that there was a no does prevent that from occurring, and it would mean that we would need to vote one more time on that item. I can tell you that my intention would be to place that item on our upcoming Monday agenda meeting, as we do have a meeting on Monday and time to notice that. However, if the point of reconsideration by Councilor Hurst was to provide more clarity for all councilors on that, certainly the motion to reconsider is in order. So at this time with the motion to reconsider, we can take a vote on the motion to reconsider. The motion to reconsider passes. We could take a new vote on the motion to suspend Rule 19. If that vote was unanimous, then this could pass into law this evening. If it was not unanimous, then we would once again have to notice the $6.5 million transfer on an upcoming meeting agenda. Does that answer your question on the motion to reconsider? Thank you. The motion on the floor is a motion to reconsider. At this time, we'll go to Councilor Whitfield, followed by Councilor Davila on the motion to reconsider.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. President. I think I lost my train of thought, but if the suspension of Rule 19 stays, we have to reconsider the transfer of the 6.5 million again on Monday's meeting, is what you're saying?
It would require a second vote. And if I was in my responsibility of placing items on the agenda, I think the most appropriate agenda for it to be considered on again would be this coming Monday. But that is my inclination at this time.
You mean not just Rule 19, not just suspension, you have to reconsider the whole
Correct,
motion?
Councilor Whitfield. We have, Rule 19 allows us to pass financial orders in one step. However, if it is suspended. However, Rule 19 itself, not being suspended, says there must be 2 votes. And so this would we would have to vote once again on the $6.5 million at some time in the future in order for that to be valid.
You know what? I withdraw my motion.
Well, yeah, because I'm going to agree with it too. Well, thank you, Mr. President. More time. Thank you.
Councilor Hurst has withdrawn his motion. There is no motion on the floor. Councilor Davila, do you have a point of inquiry?
I wonder how you do that. Yes, I do, Mr. President. So if we do this, seeing that Councilor Hurst just withdrew his motion, if we do take this up on Monday, is that a simple vote, majority vote, or a supermajority?
It's a simple majority.
Simple
So seven
majority.
votes.
But this is a transfer, a financial transfer, right?
It requires 7 votes. It's a transfer.
Okay. Okay. So if we wait until Monday, it will just be okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilor Allen.
Thanks, Mr. President. So the vote we just took, which was 12-1, that would count as the first vote.
Correct.
Just wasn't, if it had been unanimous, it would have been the only vote. But it still counts as the first of 2 votes.
Regardless of the unanimity of the vote on the transfer, you have to have a unanimous vote of Rule 19 suspension in order for it to be suspended.
So on Monday, I thought you just said that it's just a simple majority vote on Monday.
Because the vote on Monday would be the second vote on the transfer of $6.5 million, which is what Rule
So that
19
still
calls
counts
for.
as the first of 2 votes.
This was the first of 2 votes.
Gotcha.
Monday would be the second vote.
And that one does not need to be unanimous because it's 2 votes. You just have to pass it twice.
Correct. Rule 19 would not apply to the second vote.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. We've all got our rules out now, which is good. All right. At this time, we'll move to item 2. Madam Clerk, please call item 2.
Item 2 is a tax factor for fiscal year '23.
So I think, Councilor Whitfield, I see that your hand is up.
Just to be first in the queue after the information is presented.
Okay. So we will go, I think traditionally we've started with the Board of Assessors and a presentation. Then we will go to the report of the Finance Committee and the Tax Factor Committee and proceed forward from there. Chairman Greenhall?
Sure. I'm actually about to lose battery on my headphones. I'm going to try to transfer. So let me know if you can't hear me anymore. Essentially where we are right now is we're essentially looking at the tax factors. I think everyone has been given the tax factor options for the city council at this point. So, I would just note as of right now that the mayor's recommendation would be a tax factor of 0.7926. That would be a rate of 17.05 and a commercial rate of $36.40. It'd be a reduction of $1.77 on the residential rate and a $2.64 reduction on the commercial rate. And this increase in the shift is basically halfway between where we currently are in fiscal 22 and the max shift that we can go to. So it was sort of strategic to allow us some room for next year if we do want to offset some taxes on the residential side by possibly looking at shifting more on the commercial for fiscal 24. So that's kind of where we are as of right now tonight.
Thank you, Chairman Greenhall. We'll now go to Councilor Whitfield with the report of the Tax Factor and Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to note that while we were in the tax rate setting meetings, we had on the tax rate committee Diane, I'm sorry, I can't think of your last name right now, but she's sitting in the audience and gave a nice presentation from the chamber. And Ruth Ann Hamilton Stutz and Freddie Lopez, along with me and the chair of the Board of Assessors, Patrick Greenlee. And at that meeting, it was asked if a recommendation to submit the tax factor was approved, and their recommendation was approved 3-2. Patrick, Diane, and Freddie Lopez all agreed. Ruth Ann Hamilton Stutz, resident of the city of Springfield, and myself did not agree to pass the current tax factor. Counselor, can I keep going, or what's the next?
Yep, the floor is yours, Councilor Whitfield.
Okay. All right. So during the tax rate setting meeting, there was some things that came about. One of them we talked about extensively, increasing the amount to go towards decreasing the residential tax bill. So I don't think we have to beat that in the head anymore. But I just want to make it clear that there has been a tax increase for the past 8 years to residential property tax. And if we approve this residential increase, especially without the $6.5 million, that's going to be astronomical. But if we approve it with the $6.5 million, over from FY16 to FY23, the increase will be $1,092 on average. However, what we learned is more residents could pay higher than that, much higher than that. And I think Councilor Hurst was in the meeting and he explained it. And I was like, wow, I thought most people would pay the average, but a lot will pay even more than even more of an increase of the 194. And then, like I was mentioning earlier, we should do more research, because when I went to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, most of the exemptions that are given, the veteran, the blind exemption, the seniors, the surviving spouse exemptions, are exemptions that most municipalities adopt from the state. It's like state law. And so it's not a favor that's being done to the city of Springfield. We also had an opportunity to increase the reduction of the senior exemption from 500 to 1,000. That's also based on the state, and the city council approves it. And we did do that. And although the mayor recommended it, it was not without pressure from the city council to do more in the city of Springfield and for our residents. So it's not a favor. It's not something he thought of on his own. We gave some pressure to make sure that we're giving the residents of the city of Springfield the best benefits that we can. However, I learned that we're not. There are other benefits that we can give the residents of the city of Springfield, like there is an exemption clause, a senior hardship clause that defers seniors that are 70 and over from paying property tax until they sell their house or until they pass away. There's another financial difficulty hardship deferral clause, clause 18A. There's also other senior relief benefits. We give, I think, 41C, I think it is, Patrick, but there's 41A and 41B that we can consider. We can consider clauses 17. So I put a link in my press release today. So if you all get a chance, you can go and click on that link and you can learn a little bit more about all the options in the release that we can give the residents of the city of Springfield that we have not considered yet. And hopefully in the future, when we're going through the strategic process, we will consider all things. When we talk about doing the best for our residents and we talk about being strategic, let's really do that. Let's really do that. We have an opportunity to give more of a relief to our taxpayers this year in many different ways, not just increasing the 10 million offered by the mayor or the 6.5 million of the Eversource settlement agreement, but other ways that we can benefit the residents of the city of Springfield. And I wanted to make sure that we look at that. In addition, and finally, I wanted to offer a tax rate factor that's more equitable to the businesses and to the residents of the city of Springfield. And that tax rate factor, hold on, let me just get it, is tax rate factor 0.7834, which reduces the residential tax rate by $1.97, and it reduced the commercial tax rate by $1.98. I think that's way more equitable. Because when we talk about the businesses in the city of Springfield, yes, the small businesses come here, but normally they don't own the property. They're renting from big conglomerates that probably can afford to pay these additional taxes. They're not buying the buildings. And I know this because in my current job as the executive director of a coalition for an equitable economy, one thing that we want to work on is making sure the BIPOC community have the opportunities to buy the properties that they are currently renting out from business owners that probably can afford to pay these taxes. In addition, I know they create jobs and they do all these wonderful things, but they also get services from the city of Springfield. If a fire happens, fire stations come in. If some type of trouble happens, the police is going to be there. So they do get a benefit from being in the city of Springfield, not to mention the money that we spend at these organizations or these businesses also go into their pocket. And so while I do feel that they also need a decrease in what they pay in property tax, I think it should be more equitable. If there was a residential rate that could equally reduce the property taxes, I would have picked that one. However, the only one that was closest to doing that was the 0.7834, which reduces the residential rate by $1.79 and reduces the commercial rate by $1.98. So I think that just seems more fair, and I want to make a motion to accept that residential tax rate at the appropriate time, Mr. President.
Is that a motion, Council Whitfield?
I don't know, because I don't want to ask to accept that, and we have not accepted the 6.5 million, because that's going to change all the factors. And so since we cannot vote on the 6.5 million until Monday, I'm going to actually ask to continue this item as well. Make a motion to continue the item.
Second.
There's been a motion to continue the item. The motion was seconded by Councilor Hurst. Is there any discussion on the motion to continue item 2, the tax factor? Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. I promise, Mr. President, that I will be brief. With that being said, I hear the motion. This wise body, a little while ago, did not pass my motion. I've always said that I submit to the wisdom of this body. So it is what it is. Now we have to wait until Monday to approve the transfer, and that's fine. It's within our rules. I have learned one thing in life, sir. There's never guarantees. There's no guarantee that it's going to pass on Monday, albeit wisdom and political wisdom may be inclined to think that this will pass on Monday. And I'm sure phone calls are going to be made and people are going to be lobbied to make sure this happens on Monday. But there's no guarantees. So I will feel more comfortable if we make the transfer first, because otherwise we might as well just continue or approve my motion. But it is the will of this body that we then continue. So with that being said, I agree with the motion to wait until Monday so that we can ensure that the money is going to be there, because I'm not going. I feel uncomfortable telling people it's going to be something, then Monday comes and we're going to look like not bueno if that doesn't get approved. So those are my two cents. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Is there any further discussion on the motion to continue? Councilor Allen?
Just verifying, so there's a motion on the floor to continue the second item on the agenda. If we continue it, it would be continued to when?
Well, this is a good question. So we still have a meeting scheduled tomorrow night. Albeit there is a technical conflict with Focus Springfield, but seeing if we could overcome that, we could theoretically meet on them both tomorrow night. They're both on the agenda. My point of putting the 6.5 million on Monday was assuming that we would vote tonight on the tax factor. If we do not vote tonight on the tax factor, we could theoretically take them both up tomorrow. That meeting is still scheduled. And that's up to, that's up to us as a body if we want to move forward in that way. Now, again, there will be a technical conflict with the broadcast and the hybrid participation, which will require us to delay that 7 o'clock meeting. So we will have to call the meeting into order and recess it until Focus Springfield is able to move the equipment over from the school committee. Their meeting begins at 6:30. And so we could theoretically start our meeting after that. We can also postpone to a future date, as we discussed extensively, but there are some consequences that are not for me to speak about in this role. So that is to answer your question. We would have to determine that after the meeting this evening.
So if we vote to continue, we could do both tomorrow night or we could do both Monday night.
If we vote to continue, Councilor Allen, I am going to consult with Focus Springfield, and I'm going to consult with the finance team and determine later on this evening what the most efficient way for us to move forward with is. I'm very thankful to Focus Springfield. They've done a lot for us to keep us running in a hybrid way over the years since COVID began. However, when this meeting was scheduled, we scheduled it, and we did not, find out until later that there was that conflict. So certainly, I am committed to making sure that we are able to carry out all of our business as soon as possible, and we'll certainly make the arrangements after this meeting to do so.
Okay, then my only comment is it's hard to vote on the 6.5 on the item 2 without knowing the final vote on the 6.5. So whether it's tomorrow or Monday, they should both be together, or at least the 6.5 vote needs to take place.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Do you have any further discussion?
No, thank you.
Okay. The motion is to continue. Is there further debate, deliberation, or discussion on the motion to continue? Councilor Hurst, followed by Councilor Davila.
No, I'm all set.
Nope. Okay. Councilor Davila.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I do believe, Mr. President, you had mentioned that item 1 was going to go on Monday, correct?
My intention for item 1 would be to put it on Monday if we had voted on the tax factor this evening. Given that if the tax factor is continued, I am going to consult after this meeting with Focus Springfield, the Law Department, and the Finance Department to determine what the most effective and efficient thing we can do to schedule another meeting as soon as possible to carry out the business that is before us and meet any and all deadlines that we need to.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Curran.
And just for clarification to Councilor Whitfield, Councilor Whitfield, are you you're looking to change the tax factor from what's before us tonight? Just a little bit of clarification on your motion.
Councilor Whitfield.
You're muted.
Sorry. My motion is to continue this item because if we vote on a different tax factor without having the 6.5 million or whatever that amount could be, if the mayor agrees to give a higher rate, it changes the numbers on the tax factor table. And so the one that I'm proposing right now may not do what I want it to do. And what I wanted to do is give a more equitable reduction to the residential rate and the commercial rate. I want it to be more fair. And so if we use factors 0, 7, 8, 3, 4, the residential tax rate would be reduced by $1.97 from last year, and the commercial tax rate would be reduced by $1.98 from last year. So it's not such a big gap, because right now I think the tax factor of 0.7926 gives a reduction of the tax rate from last year on the residential side of $1.77, and it gives the commercial tax rate a reduction of $2.46. And I think that it should be more fair of a reduction, and I think the residents of the city of Springfield needs more of a reduction as well. And I say that even though there was a shift from the commercial side, what they pay 40%. However, the value is only 23 or 24% of the property tax value. They pay 40% of the property tax. However, like I said, a lot of them, of the small businesses in the city of Springfield, don't even own the buildings that they rent from and that they provide services from. It's more folks that have maybe the funding to pay the additional rate. And so that's the reason that I want to change the tax factor to make it more equitable and be $1.97 reduction on the residential and $1.98 of a reduction on the commercial side. Did that answer your question, Counselor?
It did, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Curran. The motion is to continue. Is there any further debate, deliberation, or questions on the motion? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, without objection, please call the roll on the motion to continue.
On the motion to continue, Councilor Perez.
No.
No. Councilor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Curran.
No.
No. Councilor Walsh.
Sorry, no.
No. Councilor Brown.
No.
No. Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards.
No.
No. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton.
No.
No. Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman.
No. Madam Clerk, can you read the yeas and nays?
7 nays, 6 yeas.
The motion to continue fails, and we return to debate on the tax factor. Councilor Whitfield.
You know what? I want to hear what Councilor Govan has to say, so I will defer to her and then I'll circle back. And Patrick, because he knows that these factors, if we vote now without the 7.65 million in place, is going to change everything. So.
And if it's okay with you, Mr. President, I can ask Chairman Greenhall to speak. He's had his hand up for a long time. And then I'll make my comments and ask my questions.
Councilor
If that's
Govan,
okay,
Councilor
Mr.
Govan is
President.
asked to recognize Chairman Greenhall. Chairman Greenhall.
Yes, can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay. Councilor Whitfield is correct. So without the usage of the $6.5 million, the tax factor that would be recommended by Councilor Whitfield would result in very different tax rates and a very different average bill increase. And I don't have that specific number with the recommended tax factor based on the $10 million of levy reduction, but just looking at the $3.5 million, it would be approximately $17.31 for the residential, which is $1.51 reduction, and then $38.05 or 99-cent reduction for commercial, and that would result in a $250 increase in the average single-family bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman
Thank you,
Greenhall.
Chairman.
Councilor
Thank you. I'm
Govan,
sorry.
the floor
Go
is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for that, Patrick. And that's an increase of 270 a quarter, or for the year?
That's for the year.
And that's with the $10 million?
No, that's with $3.5 million.
With the $3.5 million. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. So I did have, I guess my comments was regarding the businesses and the small businesses, but I think Councilor Whitfield made a good point that a lot of the small businesses that are in our city don't own the property, so they're not paying property taxes. However, we know that our residents who are paying the bulk of the property taxes, and the reason why we have such really big increases in the free cash over the last years is mainly because of them, and also, you know, all the other money that the city gets from grants and from different programs that we have. So I commend the administration for the fiscal responsibility that they've had I commend TJ for, being the best financial officer. I think that he got the award for in the country. That's what I'm saying anyways. However, at this time, I think previous chairman Allen said it, this is an opportunity that we have to give back to our residents. And my plea is always to make this city a better place for people to live, to stay, to do business here. And if we do something like this, I think that they're going to realize that the city does care about them, and not just about, they're paying their property taxes, paying their water bills, paying their light bills, but they care about the people in the city, because, this inflation has caused a lot of people to suffer. And I'm talking about people who own homes, who go to work every day. And even though, that's not a fixed income, it is a fixed income, because you can't go to your boss and say, hey, I need an extra $10,000 this year because, everything went up. That's not going to happen. You may get a 5% increase in your salary, but that's not enough to cover inflation. And I'm really urging, all of us to really, think about asking the mayor. I've asked him personally. I've asked him publicly here in these settings to consider, doing more for the residents of our city so that they can stay here, so that our children can stay here. Our young people are flying out of here. They think it's too expensive to live here. They think it's too expensive to do business here. And we have to find a way to keep our people here in our city. So that's my plea. As Councilor Davila said, my job here is to look out for the residents of Ward 8 and the city of Springfield. And that's what I want to do. And I want to continue to do that, even if I'm the lone vote saying no. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilor Govan. Is there any further deliberation? Right now we are on item 2. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. So Patrick gave information on what the tax bill increase would be if we approve the tax factor that I am recommending. But Patrick, tell us what the increase would be without the 6 million on the mayor's recommendation.
Let's see.
So just the 3.5 million, please.
So at the mayor's recommendation, which was of course based on $10 million of a reduction in levies. So his factor is linked to that, but the factor that was selected was 7,926. So without the additional free cash, that would be $17.51 for a residential rate and $37.38 for a commercial rate, with a average single family tax increase of $293.
Wait a minute, say that one more time. What's the increase is what?
$293 using the factor that was based on a recommended factor using $10 million.
I'm asking what's happening to the property tax rate on the residential side and the commercial side. Does it increase or decrease? Does it decrease by less of amount? Is it less than the 177 and the 264?
So I'm looking at just the $3.5 million. So that's sort of what's on the table now. And right, so that factor, it would be a reduction of $1.31 in the residential rate from 1882 to 1751, and a $1.66 decrease on the commercial side from 3904 to 3738.
Okay, and just for the record and for the public, can you please just explain why the values are going up? I mean, the property taxes are going up. I want folks to understand that how the values on the residential property already went up, and then how much they went up on the commercial side, because there's a vast difference between the two.
Sure, yes. So the market appreciated substantially more for the residential side than the commercial side. So we see about a 16% appreciation on the residential market. We're not seeing anywhere near that on the commercial market. There's some segments in the commercial that are seeing increases, but on overall, it's relatively flat.
Do you have the numbers? I think it was somewhere around, what, 8 billion on the residential side and 2 billion on the commercial side?
To about 166 million, 200 million, and 1.1 billion increase on the residential side.
1.1 billion and 266 million. So even if we have a more balanced and equitable tax rate factor, the commercial side will probably, their tax will not increase at the rate that the residential side is, because it's 1.1 billion evaluation on the residential side increase, right? Or 1.1 billion value of residential?
Of value, correct.
Value. And then what was the commercial side?
About 200 million of value.
So that's very different, guys. So when we're looking at the tax rate, we want to make sure that we know all the factors that go into it. I thank you for your hard work, Patrick and team. Like, you guys go out and evaluate these based on the market trend. So it's not like they're trying to scheme or anything like that. They have to take a lot of factors of what's happening in the community, how houses are selling in different neighborhoods and things like that. And we all know that property values have skyrocketed, and we're based in the values on values of FY21, obviously, because FY21. I forgot the reason why, but I know that we're basing it on FY21. So I just wanted you guys to have all the information when you make your decision on the tax factor.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. We'll go to Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President. So in the vote that's before us, without the approval of the 6.5 million for free cash, would not be the it would not give the 10 million. Is that true? And then part two, when we do vote, because there was a majority vote to accept the transfer, does that then change the factor we vote on?
I think that might be a question for either Chairman Greenhall or for TJ. Councilor Walsh, I just want to make sure I understand your question.
I meant to direct it to Patrick.
Yes, I would recommend if a second vote is required for the transfer, I would defer this tax factor vote until then as well.
Okay.
Because if that passes, it's a little different conversation with $10 million of free cash usage versus 3.5 million. So it does change the tax rates and the factors slightly. So it may make sense to have those conversations together.
Okay. Mr. President, has that already come, deferring the vote? Has that already come as a motion or a vote?
It has come as a motion, Councilor Walsh, but another motion would be in order as well.
Okay, yeah, because this is getting very confusing. And we don't want to be in this situation where all of a sudden we're sticking it to the residents because we can't agree on what's the best thing to do here. Because I want to make sure that the residents get a break. And I think it'd be less confusing, as Patrick has suggested, to take both votes together, which I'm hoping we can do tomorrow. Since the meeting's already scheduled. So I will make a motion to, Mr. President, to defer the vote and take both items together.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Councilor Walsh has made a motion to continue. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Councilor Hurst. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, will the intent be to continue tomorrow or Monday?
Councilor Davila, if the motion to continue if the motion to continue passes, following this meeting, I will meet with Focus Springfield, with the finance team, and may reach out to the school committee as well to determine if we can, in fact, have our meeting scheduled. I'd like to say for the record, we scheduled these meetings several weeks ago, working together with finance, and did not find out that there was a conflict with the school committee until it was too late to renotice the meeting.
But that will be for tomorrow.
That would be the meeting that is tomorrow. I am going to see if we can feasibly meet tomorrow. Certainly, we need to be cognizant of Focus Springfield and their ability because they have to run both meetings. And we also want to be able to provide the hybrid option, which has been something that we as a council have been committed to for transparency and accessibility. And so I will have an answer for folks tonight relative to how we will move forward with our second meeting, whether it will be tomorrow evening or whether it will be scheduled at a different time. But we will get that information out as soon as possible if, in fact, this motion to continue passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I do believe that, again, like I said at the beginning, that there's no guarantees for anything. And so I do think, and it's starting to get a funny feeling that people's eyes are starting to get glazed over with all this technical, tedious information. And I want to do the right thing for the people. I will tell you at least, Mr. President, what will work for me, that I will feel more comfortable with, is if I have, maybe that's something either Pat Burns or Chairman Greenhall can provide to us, what will the impact be accordingly for both residential and businesses using both models, the mayor's recommendation of 0.7926 and Councilor Whitfield's recommendation of 0.7834 with the corresponding $3.5 million already approved and with the $10 million as proposed to the mayor. Because at least for me, and I don't think that would be, maybe Patrick, just if I could, Mr. President, Patrick, is that something you could do for us by Monday?
Yes, we have already sent out yesterday afternoon and first thing this morning, we did send out the neighborhood tax impact sheets regarding the mayor's recommendation, but we could certainly do one at the $3.5 million.
Is that the one?
I don't know what the recommended rate would be, but we would need to just know that.
Is that the one at least I received something this morning. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, so that's one based on the mayor's recommended rate.
Okay. So you could provide something for us by Monday with both suggested rates, Councilor Whitfield, Councilor Mayor Sarno's, with the corresponding 3.5 million already approved and the corresponding $10 million so that we can contrast and compare to really take an informed decision. And again, is that correct, Patrick? Is that something you could do?
Yes, I would like to be clear, though. I'm not sure that anyone's really making a recommendation of a factor based on 3.5 million. So we can certainly do one with, I've already sent one out with the mayor's recommendation. We can send out another set with Councilor Whitfield's recommended factor as well. We would need to know what the tax rates would be at the $3.5 million. We can use the same factors, but I'm not really sure anyone would be advocating for those factors.
Well, I think that's regardless the point. I'd like to see what the impact will be, and then we will make our decision. At least for me, that would be helpful if you could provide that with the 3.5 and without million and with the $10 million. And so, Mr. President, I think it will be wise for us to have a little bit of a cool-off period, if I may say, till Monday. And then we're still within the range of what they themselves have said, that is the so-called internal deadline that they have. So I would strongly urge to wait until Monday. Thank you. And thank you, Patrick, for your help. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Is there any further discussion on the motion to continue? Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. Didn't I make a motion to continue and it fails? Is that a reconsideration motion? I don't know, because we did reconsideration before. I'm just a little confused right now.
This is just a new motion to continue. The motion to continue is still.
You can just keep making motions to continue if you want?
You cannot make frivolous motions. Someone cannot make a frivolous motion, so the president could rule frivolous motions out of order. But Councilor Whitfield, I apologize. I was just answering your question. The reason why I would rule Councilor Walsh's motion in order is she stated there was new information that she had that would impact her decision making, and so.
Okay. All right.
So
Thank you.
currently, the order on the floor, the motion on the floor is to continue.
Okay, so, one thing that I wanted to ask Patrick, if he could give us, if the mayor recommended an additional, $3 million, 3.5, let's say 3.5, so we'll make it an even 10 million from Eversource, what that would do to the rates, would you be able to do that? So it'd be 13.5, of a decrease instead of 10. You're on mute, Patrick.
Sorry about that. Yes, we could generate basically an options table like this. Of course, there wouldn't be a recommended number in there, but we could certainly produce that.
Okay, because I think that will help us see the picture that just adding an additional 3.5 million out of 76 million could, reduce the tax increase down to zero. We definitely want to do that because I want to make one final point, and that is if people can't afford to pay their tax bills, they get interest payment. Is that correct, Peter?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's a balloon effect, guys. If you can't afford your tax bill, so if you got to make a decision between feeding your family, paying your mortgage, or paying your tax bill, I don't know which people would choose, but then they get a late fee on top of the already high tax bill. And I don't think that makes a lot of sense. It doesn't make a smart decision for the counselors to balloon the payments for the residents of the city of Springfield. So I want the mayor to strongly urge the mayor to consider at least an additional 3.5 million, and then we could get those rates from Patrick. And then we need to strongly consider how this affects the residents of the city of Springfield. It's a balloon effect. You can't pay one thing, you rob Peter to pay Paul. Think of the seniors. When I come here fighting so hard, I'm fighting for my parents. They're both seniors and their income isn't increasing at the rate, not even at the rate of the tax bills. So it's personal for me. I'm also a property tax owner, and my daughter's gonna be a property tax owner. She doesn't make the income that I make to probably be able to sustain a tax bill of this magnitude. So we need to consider all of that. We need to consider the balloon effect that this has for people. And then their properties goes into tax title, and folks that lived in their home for 30 years and this and that have to get out of their house because now the city owns the property and able to like resell it or auction it off. That's not fair to residents of the city of Springfield that bought their homes and been in their homes for 30 or 40 years, been citizens of the city, probably even voted for the mayor at the time. All that's not fair, guys. We need to consider all these factors. And I'm letting you guys know right now, there's a lot of people watching. I posted the link on Facebook. I'm getting a lot of responses on my phone right now. You might even hear it dinging. That's from the community. So I want you guys to be conscious of the decisions that you make. And I want to hear from Councilor Perez, because I haven't, otherwise I was going to move the question, but I will not, just to be courteous to her.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. There is a motion on the floor to continue. The next person in the queue virtually is Councilor Perez. Before we move to Councilor Perez, I have a question. My question is of an administrative nature relative to this vote, and so I feel confident asking it. Madam Clerk, if this was continued, could we notice a Monday 4:30 p.m. meeting with enough time if we noticed that tonight?
If we notice it this evening, 4:30, no.
What time could we note? What's the earliest we could notice a new meeting?
The earliest that we should be able to, let me just look. If we do it this evening, and so from Monday at 4:30, we can.
We can notice a 4:30 p.m. Monday meeting.
It's as long as, is it considered a special meeting?
It would be a special meeting.
Then no, because it should have been done today for Monday. We need the 72 hours if we're considering it. If you add it to the agenda of Monday's meeting, then we
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Perez.
I just have, I just have a question because Councilor Whitfield is asking for reconsideration of $3.5 million more. How does that affect our continue of this meeting for tomorrow?
Council Perez, if it would be similar to the question that the clerk answered earlier, any new appropriation is going to require it to be noticed as a special meeting, unless that was for Monday, which would have to be noticed by tomorrow morning. So I don't think we're going to reach resolution by tomorrow morning. So with that said, we would need to, any further appropriation by the mayor would require a special meeting.
So, and that's a dilemma because then, no, okay, so thank you. This is very confusing.
Thank you, Councilor
Mr.
Perez.
President.
Thank you, Councilor Perez. Councilor Allen on the motion to continue.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to clarify that, a special meeting requires 72 hours notice. At this point, if there were any change to the mayor's recommendation, that would require a special meeting for Monday or Tuesday.
Correct.
So we can't, if I heard what the clerk just said, we can't do a meeting Monday if there's a change if we need a special meeting. So we're kind of in the time crunch here with any of this. We could go forward with tomorrow's meeting, but to add a meeting on Monday, that would be a special meeting, and there's not time between Thursday morning and Monday night to do 72 hours. So we'd be on to Tuesday.
That is correct, Councilor Allen.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions on the motion to continue? Councilor Whitfield?
I don't mind it going to Tuesday, honestly, because I think we do have a little bit of wiggle room while the internal request is to have it to DOR by the 6th. That's not the rule. That's an internal rule. And Patrick did say that. So I'm fine with it if it has to go to Tuesday so we can get a consideration from the mayor. And if we can't, we vote on it on Tuesday, but I'm really fine with that.
Councilor Davila on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have to say that I would have preferred Monday just to move as swift as possible with this. But seeing that it appears that we need to, we will not meet the deadlines for open meeting laws, even if it's posted tonight, then I think that I agree with Councilor Whitfield that a Tuesday vote taking both matters will be most appropriate. And again, we're still within the deadline that they themselves have said that they have imposed. So I concur. Tuesday will be acceptable as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. On the schedule, one question, Madam Clerk. The 72-hour notice for a special meeting appears in our rules, but is that pulled from open meeting law?
So it is, it excludes the Saturday and Sunday and any holiday.
Open meeting law excludes Saturday, Sunday, and
Yes.
any holiday, but I'm asking, we define our meetings in our council rules, and we define regular meetings of the council being held on the first and third Monday, and then hearings meetings being held in between. We have coined the term special meeting in our meeting minutes to mean a meeting different from the meeting scheduled under Rule 1. And I believe the intent of that rule is so as to prevent meetings from being called in such a way that councilors do not have notice. But does the open meeting law of the Commonwealth call for a 72-hour notice, or does it call for a 48-hour notice?
No, it is 72 hours. I can pull it up if you'd like and just quote you the exact part of MGL, but it is noted in the general laws.
Aren't we going to notice our meeting for Monday tomorrow morning?
Monday's meeting is a regular meeting. It's not a special meeting.
Okay, so open meeting law also defines a special meeting?
Yes.
Okay. So if that's the case, then the only option for a special meeting other than the meeting that is posted for tomorrow night is Tuesday. Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the motion to continue? Seeing no further discussion on the motion to continue, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the motion to continue.
On the motion to continue, Councilor Perez.
I've got 48 hours.
4.
I'm going to register Councilor Hurst's objection to the vote at this time. So there was an objection. Councilor Hurst will return to debate on the motion. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just see 48 hours here in the open meeting law. Says accepting an emergency, public bodies shall file meeting notices sufficiently in advance of a public meeting to permit posting of the notice at least 48 hours in advance of the public meeting, in accordance with MGL C30A, Section 20. That's what I thought it was, but that's what I'm reading, unless I'm misinterpreting something.
Attorney Shea, can you weigh in? I'll tell you what my thinking is, Counselor. So my thinking is it feels like there is an appetite to take it up Monday. And my thinking is if it is our own rule, just as we suspend Rule 19, we could unanimously suspend that rule for the purpose of scheduling that meeting. And if we agreed unanimously to do so, it may be in order. But that is only if, in fact, the open meeting law calls for 48 hours.
I find the open meeting law, as Councilor Hurst did, is 48 hours.
Councilor Edwards.
Is it appropriate for us to take the vote on continuing and allow you the authority to be able to schedule a meeting at the earliest, whether it is 48 hours or 72 hours, but can we get through the vote first? Continue the meeting and then let the smart people figure out when we can legally hold the meeting? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So the motion on the floor is to continue. Is there any further deliberation on the motion to continue? Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've been fumbling through the rules here, but I believe that our rules is 72 hours, and it supersedes, in this case, the state, because the minimum that requires 48. Well, it's kind of what you're saying. We will have to suspend that rule to meet on Monday. That's what I think you were saying, Councilor Hurst, right? To meet on Monday? Yeah. So I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just thinking, it makes sense to me, Mr. President. I hear you. But you spent a lot of time a little while ago talking about the conflicts of, the orchestrating the whole for the meeting. So if you make it happen, more power to you. But again, I think that this is a vote that we need to take our time. I will leave it up to your wisdom. That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
So to answer your question, Councilor Davila, my feeling would be that it seems that we can notice a Monday 4:30 p.m. meeting if there is a suspension of Rule 2. And so in that sense, if the motion was amended, I could then move forward with scheduling that meeting tonight with the city clerk.
Motion to suspend Rule 2.
There is a motion on the floor, and that motion is from Councilor Walsh. That motion is currently simply to continue.
Mr. President?
Second.
No.
There is no motion on the floor, councilors. And I appreciate everybody bearing with us with the complicated nature of our parliamentary procedure. My goal is simply to ensure that we are able to carry out our business and do so in the way that we can do best. So, Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just so, who made the motion to continue? Was that Councilor Whitfield?
The motion to continue was from Councilor Walsh.
Councilor Walsh. Well, if Councilor Walsh was to be kind enough to withdraw the motion, perhaps we could entertain Councilor Edwards' motion and move forward.
If that were to occur, I would need a motion to suspend Rule 2 for the purpose of scheduling the subsequent meeting to this meeting.
I don't understand why you can't take my motion first and then suspending Rule 2 second.
We can do that.
Let's do that. I think we're all ready to take some votes. It's almost 10 o'clock.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Is there any further deliberation on Councillor Walsh's motion to continue? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the motion to continue.
On the motion to continue, Councillor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Fenton.
Can you clarify
The motion is to continue, Councillor Fenton. The motion is to continue.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient and the matter will be continued.
Motion to suspend Rule 2.
Second.
Councillor Edwards has made a motion to suspend Rule 2. That has been seconded by Councillor Davila. Is there any discussion on the motion to suspend Rule 2? Seeing no discussion, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the motion to suspend Rule 2.
On suspension of Rule 2, Councillor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Fenton. Councillor Fenton.
Let the record reflect that Councillor Fenton is disconnected and should be marked as absent.
Away, Councillor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. Rule 2 shall be considered suspended for the subsequent meeting schedule. Madam Clerk, is there any further business properly brought before this body?
No, there is not.
Seeing none, we will stand adjourned.
Happy birthday, Councillor Hurst, and we usually sing it, and I don't think it'll be right if we don't.
1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
You don't want to hear that.
Happy birthday, dear Councillor Hurst. Happy birthday to you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good night.